Hello and welcome back to the world of birds. Today we're diving into something really exciting for the winter birding season, the Winter Finch Forecast for 2025 to 2026. If you have ever wondered which northern finches might be showing up in your backyard this winter, where they might turn up, and how to find them, you're in the right place. First though, what is the Winter Finch Forecast? The Winter Finch Forecast is put together each year by the Finch Research Network, and it uses clues like cone and berry crops in the boreal forests and other ecological signals to predict finch movements southwards, like the spruce budworm outbreaks during the summer months, one of which is currently occurring in eastern North America, possibly the largest in decades for some areas, giving certain species a nice food source for the summer and to feed their young. This abundance of food during the summertime months, combined with a poor winter cone crop, causes more birds have to look farther south in search of food. Essentially, when the food supply up north is weak, many of these finches go on the move, and that gives us a chance to spot them in places they don't always visit each year. This movement of birds is called an eruption, and it is expected that this winter might be a very good year for many of these boreal species. So here is a quick rundown of what the 2025 to 2026 forecast is telling us. The boreal forest from central Quebec westward to Manitoba has a mostly very poor cone and seed crop this year. Because of that, many finch species are likely to move southward in search of food. Some species that might not normally show up in large numbers outside the boreal may be seen much farther south, which means your backyard could host some surprises this year. So let's go through a handful of the finch species to watch out for this winter, how you might find them, what they like to eat, and where they do tend to show up. So first we have the pine siskin. The forecast says that there should be a moderate to possible strong flight of pine siskins this year. But why? Because many of the cone and seed crops, such as the white spruce and white birch in the normal boreal range, are weak. So where should we look for these finches? Pine siskins will often show up at feeders that offer Niger seed or black oil sunflower seed. So tube or sock feeders are something you might want to have offered in your yard to help encourage them if they do happen to pass by. Also, keep an eye out for areas with small cone trees like birch and cedar. When and where are they expected to show up? Expect them to be moving into areas south of the boreal forest this year, especially where conifer seed crops have been low. If you live in a region like the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, or the Northeast, keep an eye out for these little finches. Another tip to keep in mind is because this species loves small seeds, check fields too. If you have an open weedy patch or neglected edge around your yard, check these areas especially. Next is probably one of the species that most people are excited to see at their feeders, the evening grosbeak. The forecast for the evening grosbeak suggests a moderate flight southward this fall. Some flocks may winter further south than usual, especially in areas like southern Quebec, Ontario, New England, New York, maybe even Pennsylvania or higher elevations of the mid-Atlantic. With the combination of a nice spruce budworm outbreak, possibly leading to a higher survival rate of this year's young, and a less than average to poor winter cone and berry crop, this may lead to a possible very nice evening grosbeak movement. Here in central New York, we've already had several flocks being seen in the area. So where to look for these large finches? It's recommended if you're in these areas to offer food at your feeders such as black oil sunflower seeds, or keep an eye on nearby ash and maple trees or mountain ashberry trees. Since it appears to be that berry crops are weaker this year, they may be searching feeders more. Make sure to have a platform feeder or a large covered feeder for them, as they prefer to feed from these style feeders. Look for places that have fruit trees still containing fruit, such as cherry and mountain ash, as these seem to be their preferred berry crop. The other grosbeak species that can be possibly showing up is the pine grosbeak. The forecast for pine grosbeak suggests a light to moderate flight southward this fall. The forecast is due to the poor availability of mountain ash and other berry-producing trees. Pine grosbeaks are expected to range southward in search of food down into parts of southern Ontario, southern Quebec, and into the northernmost parts of New England and the Maritime provinces. As of when I'm recording this, there has been several nice reports from the Rochester area already. So, where to possibly find these grosbeaks? Pine grosbeaks may end up visiting backyard feeders where they prefer black oil sunflower seeds if they can't find other food sources, but mostly keep an eye out for ornamental fruiting trees such as European mountain ash berries and crab apples, as these are likely to attract them if they pass overhead. Another finch species that can be expected to be seen this year is the redpoll. These are another eruptive finch species that could be showing up in good numbers. For redpolls, the forecast indicates that because many of their preferred seed crops, like alder, birch, spruce, and tamarack, are average to poor in parts of the eastern Arctic and boreal forests, there may be an increased movement southwards in the Great Lakes east and throughout northern New York, the New England area, and Canada's maritime provinces. These little finches will probably show up in weedy fields, prairies, birch catkin stands, and at feeders offering Niger and black oil sunflower seeds. Two other unique finch species to keep an eye out for, or ear out, are the red crossbills and the white-winged crossbills. These are a bit different. Rather than huge southward flights, this 2025 forecast suggests that many will remain in the boreal forests unless they hit patches with very poor cone crops, at which point they may drift south. For example, the white-winged crossbills, the good white spruce crop may keep many in the north. The best place to look for these species is in conifer forests with spruce, tamarack, or good white pine cone production. At feeders, they may show up if their regular seed crops are scarce, but they're more easily found in forested areas. The white-winged crossbills tend to either head east or west across the boreal forest, depending on their food availability. It has been reported that it seems this year they are headed westwards, towards the larger cone crops that are found across Alaska and throughout western Manitoba, and probably slightly southward from there. It is a possibility that some will remain in the eastern portions and may end up showing up in New England or the Great Lakes region. The red crossbills are likely to be seen east of the Great Lakes in areas with a good crop of mixed conifers, especially pine. If this crop is used up, they may then be seen moving southward along the coastline. So, when and where to look? Primarily look in the northern forests, especially boreal spruce tamarack zones. But if you're in the Adirondacks, Maine, or higher elevation forests in the Appalachians, it is still worth keeping an eye out for these finches. A tip for these guys is listen for their flight calls. Crossbills often announce themselves by sound. As they primarily feed on cones, they will most likely be high up in the trees, so always keep looking up. Several red crossbills have already shown up locally to me, and many birders have encountered them, but only because of their calls. None, as far as I know, have actually seen them yet. So being familiar with their calls is a great starting point. Our next finch is the purple finch. And these can be one of the more regular winter finches seen at feeders in winter. The forecast notes that for purple finches, many should be migrating south out of Canada this year, with a likely moderate flight into the U.S. Some individuals may remain further north, but there are several eBird reports already showing up suggesting a nice purple finch movement southwards into the United States from the eastern Great Plains to North Carolina's coast. It wouldn't be too surprising to see them go as far as some southernmost states as well. So, how to spot these guys? Keep an eye out at feeders that are offering black oil sunflower seeds, as they prefer this. Males will have a raspberry red wash, while females are brown streaked with a heavy face pattern. These finches are known to often visit feeders, so keep an eye out on your feeders for these little finches. And that wraps up the species profiles of these boreal finches we could be expecting to see this year. And one more thing to think about is that some of these species have different call types. This characteristic is currently being heavily researched by the Finch Research Network. If you hear species like the evening grosbeak or red crossbill, try to get a recording of them. You can even use your Merlin app to get a nice recording. Once recorded, you can use various websites to see what call type you have and then mark it accordingly on your eBird checklist. Here are some tips to boost your odds of seeing these northern visitors. Keep your feeders stocked. Black oil sunflower seeds and Niger seeds are especially helpful to have out for many of these boreal birds. Provide various feeding stations. Tube feeders, sock feeders, small open trays. Finches often prefer smaller seeds or scattered seeds near ground or weedy patches. Evening grosbeaks prefer platform feeders or large covered feeders. If you're out birding looking for some of these eruptive species, check early mornings and after storms. Weather events can trigger movements, so keep an eye peeled after a freeze, snowstorm, or when cone crops have been depleted further north, which may cause them to start moving further southward in search of new food sources. Look on eBird to see for sightings and movement patterns, so you can see where eruptions might be happening. You can also search through eBird to find places that they seem to have favored in the past. This can be helpful to map out places to be checking for these finches as winter progresses. So why do we care about these eruption of finches? Because these finch movements are data telling us about the health of our boreal forest ecosystems, about seed crops failures, insect outbreak, and climate change impacts. The movement of these birds into our region is a signal of possible ecological shift. Finch eruptions do occur naturally in cycles, though. There is usually a good southward movement of these birds on a regular cycle, and their preferred cone crops also have their own cycle every so many years. And for birders, it's a thrilling chance to see these typically boreal species in our own home area and learn more about species that normally aren't seen around us. So this winter, get ready. The forecast suggests we could be in for a very nice finch movement this year, whether you're a seasoned birder or just enjoy putting out seed and watching the birds from your own home. Keep your feeders stocked, keep your eyes and ears alert, and your binoculars ready. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button and subscribe for more birding updates. And let me know in the comments, which finch are you hoping to spring to see this winter? And until then, happy birding.